I'm going to share a mistake that I have seen repeatedly by new camps, after school providers, or kids program owners. This mistake could cost you as much as $30,000. Yes, 30,000. That money could be going in your pocket instead of someone else's. Here is what I do know. As a marketer and a marketing instructor, I have taken that knowledge and turned it into my own six-figure business. I was able to scale so quickly to 45 schools in 3 years because I practice this cost saving measure and I keep on applying it now to my summer camps. So, what is this we're going to be talking about? Two big costs you're going to have. Every business has it, but especially if you're a camp or an after school provider. Your two biggest costs are people, your labor, all the other people like yourself who love working with kids. But the other one is your rent. Where is your facility where you are going to offer your educational or kid-based services? Not surprisingly, you got to keep the people, but the rent is going to break the bank unless you are careful. So here's what I say is the number one mistake to avoid. Do not have a 12-month lease unless you're a gym or some kind of studio. And even for studios like dance studios, karate studios, I have seen some clever, cost-effective ways around it. But most people, especially tutoring schools, I run a STEM and coding camp for kids. I do not have a 12-month lease. I have very cost-effective rooms that I rent, different types, different kinds, different types of services. I'll share that later in the video. But most of you considering having a business that caters to kids don't actually need to lock into a 12-month lease. Here's what you can do, and here's the math behind why you shouldn't. Okay, the reasons to avoid it. Number one is the cost. It is so expensive to get a 12-month lease. You've got to have a lot of cost up front you're going to have to incur, and we'll literally walk through what those will be, but you'll quickly see just because you have a great storefront, maybe you've got great pedestrian traffic or car traffic, so you have a lot of awareness on Main Street. If you can't translate that awareness into sales, not a good move. Number two is hidden costs. There are so many risks because the hidden costs are way above and beyond what you think they're going to be. It's kind of like buying a house, but now the house is for your business where you're not living. It's where your business is living. And lastly, most importantly, I think for me at least, why I had 45 schools in 3 years, your location locked. If you have one rental for your kid-based business, you are stuck there. You can't, most of them aren't going to just hop into an Uber or a van and transport their business halfway across the city. Because I was always a mobile business, I didn't have that problem. I mean, it would be cheaper and easier to get a van and transport my business, computers and STEM toys across the city versus spending thousands of dollars every month on one singular location in one part of the city. When you are like that, you cannot grow your geographic range. You're stuck literally in that neighborhood. So consider the expenses that you will incur with a long-term lease, but also the limitations. You can't grow your revenue because you are stuck with that long-term lease. Let's look at the numbers even further in case you still are not convinced. Okay, monthly rent. I'm turning to beloved AI just to give me some cost estimates. We've got the low end column of the cost estimates and the high end. And I think we have around 10, 11, 12 different items here. But of all these line item costs, only a couple of them you'd have anyway. I am a mobile business. Check, I have insurance. And yes, I definitely have internet and phone, especially because I'm a mobile tech-based business where I need internet. But I'm not paying for rent, whatever CAM fees are, not paying property taxes, not paying electricity. I'm not paying water, sewer, gas, security, waste removal. What the heck is that? All these costs add up. At the low end, if you're lucky, you're only paying $2,000 a month. but it could easily be double that at $4,700 a month. Let's drill down even deeper and give you a real life scenario for my city. I live in Toronto, Canada. Oh, one of the most expensive cities in North America. Our homes start at $1 million. It's pretty outrageous. Like we all know about inflation. Talk about commercial real estate inflation on top of living expenses. That is to say, if I look at a real life example, it could easily cost $4,000 for rent and utilities. But as the owner, I want to pay myself. And maybe you think, wow, 5 grand a month, that's a lot. You know what? When I was an after school program, I actually did pay myself $5,000 a month. That was half of the $10,000 a month that we netted. And given that I was a sole owner, it seemed reasonable to me. So you got to pay yourself to stay in business. Do you need three part-time staff totaling nearly 5K? Maybe not. You may be able to avoid having all three, but still, you're going to need at least one or two people. You cannot work every single shift, and you'll see why as we go further along with the numbers. Marketing, I think this is kind of low personally, $500 a month. That would probably just be your Google ads and not a lot more slush funds. Supply software, again, kind of, okay, but a bit on the low side. Some of the software tools we use are easily like $100 a month. And then, of course, miscellaneous, right? So your cost could be as high as nearly $15,000 a month when you add in everything, especially your rent and utilities, which is 4,000 of the 14,000. If that is how much you need to spend every month just to keep the business open, how much revenue do you need to make to actually be profitable? Well, we're going to look at the revenue you need is basically your total cost plus around 10% for profit, right? So my total cost previously around $14,000, $15,000. When you add in the extra um, um, funds you need to cover the profit every business needs to incur, profit put aside for future, it's around $16,000 of revenue needed every single month. What does that work out to? That is 82 students per week. Okay, is that doable? I don't know. What does 82 students per week look like on a daily basis? That's around 12 students a day. Okay, you know what? That actually sounds kind of doable. That's essentially one class of 12 kids, or maybe two classes of 6 kids, and you can probably make the numbers work. But there's a catch. You need more than 82 students per week, and here's why. You need more sales leads to account for parents who call or email but don't actually sign up or who discontinue. You can't assume these 82 kids will stay here every week, every month, every year. They're going to graduate, move on, move away, relocate, get bored, get disinterested. Something's going to happen. You're also going to have people who be like, yeah, I'm interested, and then they compare you versus the competition. So the point to say is this is the best case scenario, and it also assumes you've got your 12 students a day for 7 days a week. So, you're working not just Monday to Friday, you're also working Saturday and Sunday. And in fact, kids are at school Monday to Friday during the day. So you're especially working during the weekend. Those are busy weekends. What does it look like for a real life competitor of mine here in Toronto? Again, I said a very expensive city where homes start at $1 million. So guess what the cost will be for your rent? This is a screenshot of a competitor, their hours according to Google. I've hidden their name to protect their privacy, but they are a STEM and coding competitor in my city. You will quickly see they are only open Monday to Saturday. Don't blame them. We all need a day of rest. But they also have really short hours, 4 to 7, 4 to 7, 10 to 3. So if you add this up, they're actually only open for 20 hours per week. Pretty much 3 work days. Of every 7-day work week, they're really only working for 3 of those days. But they are paying rent and utilities, and all that trash removal, etc. They're paying that all week long. So you're working for 3 days, but you're paying the bills for seven. That doesn't make sense because you can only make money when you're open for work, right? So 3 days to make revenue, 7 days to pay it off. And if you look at it more holistically, you know what? You're closed when kids are at school, like I said earlier on. This really works out to you're only open 12 to 16 days of the month. Let's say 15 days for easy math, 30 days in a month. So essentially, 2 weeks out of every 4 weeks every month, you're closed, which is great if you want to have a really laid back lifestyle business. I don't blame you, but I think the rent you pay is too high to justify that laid back lifestyle. If I was paying that much in rent and utilities, I'd have to hustle a lot more because that is way too expensive to justify all those closures. Here is the strategy, not just what should you not do, what should you do? Okay, so my competition in Toronto, 4 grand a month, rent and utilities, $1,000 a week. No, we're not doing that. Here's what I did. I was paying as little as $940 per month or $235 per week. Compare the math. I would only rent rooms as needed. And as an after school program, a lot of my rooms are rented at schools where I only had to pay literally for 60 minutes to be in and out. For a 45-minute lunch program, I would pay in 10-minute increments. I'd pay for 50 minutes in and out. Really, really cost effective, really simple. And think about it. If you want to make money and ensure that you're in the green, you need to figure out a way. How can I get my second biggest cost, my rent, as low as possible? To put that in perspective, what my monthly rent is less than his weekly rent. So my 4 weeks is less than his 1 week. That is shocking, shocking, shocking. And to put that into a 12-month scenario, it's 3 grand per month less or $30,000 less per year. And that's based on 10 months because 2 months are for summer camp. Think about it. That $30,000 that I am saving goes right into my pocket, not into my landlord or some other person's. This is what you have to do to be able to succeed as a new business. It's going to take longer than you think to grow your sales. It will always take longer. It is the nature of the business. In the meantime, you got to keep those costs as low as possible, squeeze them and minimize them while you get the sales machine turning and revving up. Okay, so how do you lower those costs? What are some rental options? I will give you 3 that I've done, and another 3 that I've considered but not yet tried. I would, but not yet. Okay, number 1, schools, public and private schools. This is a school that we've rented every year since we were going to rent it in 2020. That year didn't happen, but we've rented it since 2023 onwards. It's a lovely school room, one of my favorite camp rooms ever, actually. And does it have AC? No, but we get 2 fans, 3 fans from the school, and it's a pretty good room with windows and ventilation. So lovely room, nice and clean, loving it, great size. And here's what I also like about schools, whether private or public. I will say you get instant customers. Parents know exactly where you are. If they already send little Johnny or little Sally to school 5 days a week for, 9 years of their life, they know where you are come summer. Don't make parents overthink it. Simple and straightforward. Very inexpensive rent, no complaints. If you're an after school program, there is no transporting kids from A to B. You don't have to worry about that. That to me would be another headache. Probably up your insurance costs, your liability. You go straight there where kids are and get right into the after school program and don't have the headache of transportation. And obviously it's convenient for families for various reasons. Last thing I'll mention is we have one private school that we've rented from. It might be coincidence. It's hard for me to really quantify this, but I have noticed the private school camp location is doing really well. And I partly wonder if it is because it's a private school and parents want to see what's the private school like. I do try to say we're not affiliated with the private school. They don't have their logo on my website, and I don't, affiliate myself with them. I don't mislead. I'm just renting a room at this private school. But I think it's interesting that it's quickly become number one camp for various reasons. And I do think one reason may be because it's a private school with really nice amenities. The public school here is fine in this photo, but hey, who knows? Maybe the private schools are where it's at when it comes to sales. Okay, number two, co-working space. This is how I grew my business. And in the very beginning, back in 2017, I didn't know how else to do it. I could not afford a 12-month lease. So as much as I now preach to you, don't do it, don't do it, I didn't do it because I couldn't afford it. There was no other clever reason or rationale. I literally did not have first month's rent deposit, last month's rent and all that stuff, the 4 grand every month. That's probably 15 grand right there. I was a freelancing stay-at-home mom with 2 young kids. There was no extra pile of money to put towards rent. However, I could rent a room for as little as $35 an hour. A bigger room was $50 an hour. Those prices have gone up a little bit since pre-COVID, but they're not outrageous. It's still way cheaper than the 4 grand a month that I would pay. So co-work spaces, consider them. And here are some bonuses. They're always nice facilities and good amenities. This is an example of a co-work space that I use. They have 2 locations in the city. They tend to be nice loft type office workspaces, so high ceilings. Every single person who walks in, like without fail, every person, wow, I love this place. Never been here before. Didn't know it existed. This is so nice. Everyone loves it. So you can't complain about the facility. You get all the amenities. It's higher caliber than a school. Plus, I get Wi-Fi as a tech and coding camp. I need my Wi-Fi. That's a big cost savings for me. The rent is reasonable, not as cheap as a school, but still reasonable because I do get those amenities and it's usually like just nicer. And parents like it because there's a lounge. You know, I brought my daughters to the sports camps, the dance camp, and the after school program. And if you're lucky, are a couple of lawn chairs to sit on, but it's usually not the best place. It's usually standing room only. It's just not as comfortable. This is the kind of environment where they accommodate bigger crowds. You can rent a room off to the side like here, and parents can chill out with their iPad or their podcast. So they like it. They'll bring the little kids as well. They can have their snack while the older kid is inside doing their STEM or coding activity. Win-win for all. Okay, rental option number three is churches. This is a church example we have rented from in the past. The facilities are pretty good. I think they've actually gotten better. We've noticed since the pandemic, actually during the pandemic, a lot of churches upgraded their facilities. They knew they were losing out on rent, losing out on weddings, losing out on lots of different rental opportunities. So they did take that time, those 2, 3 years to upgrade their facilities. So they're actually not as like dingy as they used to be, but the rent is still reasonable. And one thing I personally like is there's always a community focus, which, the churches I rent from, they give back the local community. They do charity events, food drives, soup kitchens, you name it. It's really been a win-win for all. And here, lastly, are the three other options I have not used. I've looked into or considered, but they what I would use, especially if I was a tutoring program or something that was more um, easy on the supplies. Again, if you're a gym you need a gymnasium, that's a different story. But if you're a tutoring school in particular, even actually probably a dance studio can get away with this. You probably just need like a condo party room. My city is full of condos. There are more condos than people at this point, I think. I'm positive I can get a condo party room for like a few $100 a week, I bet, for multiple uses. Office space, it's not co-work space, is also really cheap these days. People aren't going back to the office, so guess what? They'll rent it to you on the weekends or after school really cost effectively. And lastly, libraries. We have some really great libraries in the city. I know of other camps that have used libraries to operate their camp for the summer, so it's totally doable. Okay, so what you really need to think about in the end, again, if you don't need the gym or the track, do you just need an okay facility that will suffice? I just need a room with Wi-Fi. I can bring my own portable Wi-Fi. I'm equipped to do that. I really just need a room with tables and chairs and, a white wall to project onto or a white screen. It's pretty bare bones, and it's what every classroom of every school would have, or frankly, any office room would have. Not anything super complicated. Do you need storage? Possibly you do. It was a bonus if I could keep my stuff on site at the co-work space. It was more headache than it was worth, but it's something to consider. I know the churches are usually pretty good. They'll rent you space. Camps I know that pack up but want to store their camp supplies throughout the summer, they just pay a small rental fee and there you go. Rent's usually reasonable. That, of course, is way cheaper than locking into the Main Street lease that I mentioned earlier on, that 4K a month. And lastly, when we're talking about kids and kids' activities, especially if you're a summer camp provider like myself, is it close to parks and playgrounds? Beyond that, you're good to go. Okay, so I hope that helped. Find ways to save yourself $4,000 a month or $30,000 a year. Got questions? Shoot me an email at camplaunchconsult@gmail or reach out. I'm at Codezilla Kids on all the social media platforms.